Hey guys, today I wanted to talk to you about a plant that is very common in this area. In fact, most of us just would look at it as an invasive weed that needed to be taken care of. But I wanted to talk to you about it because it is actually edible and has medicinal properties as well. And that is a plant called curled dock or yellow dock. So I have a couple of examples here in front of me. This is the whole plant that I dug up, and you can see why they called it curled dock. You'll notice that the leaves have a distinctive curled edge to them. They curl up. So it will grow. This is a young plant. You can look at the root. It's like a tap root that goes straight down. And the leaves are kind of forming a like basal rosette at the bottom that comes out from the base and comes up like this. Now here's an example of a bigger plant. Same thing. This may actually even be a couple plants entwined together. This is one I dug up. You can see the long taproot there, and then it makes a big base of flowers that come out from this center. So these are the younger leaves here. The bigger and longer ones are the older leaves. Once it starts flowering, you'll see a stalk that comes up like this. This is kind of big. It's very distinctive though, and I'm sure once you see this, you'll go, oh my goodness, I've seen this everywhere. So it makes a long tall stalk with these, I'm trying to zoom in on the little green seed pods. Okay. And then once the seeds are mature and the plant starts to dry, it'll have a very distinctive rust colored look to it. Now these are the mature seeds. I'm trying to zoom in. You can see the seeds there with kind of a sheath around them. Each individual seed has a sheath around it. So now let's talk about the plant. The leaves are edible. You want to make sure, you don't have to make sure, but if you want to eat them raw, it will be more edible to eat them when they're young like this before it is put out a flower stalk. You can still eat them once the flower stalk has grown. It's just that they're going to be tougher and more bitter. And at that point, you would probably want to cook them. And they are still edible. You could boil them or saute them or add them into soups or stews, whichever way you prefer. It's just that that will take out some of the bitterness and the toughness and make it a little more pleasant to eat. I've also seen recommended where you could mix it with a milder tasting green, like maybe spinach, to kind of tame out the bitterness. But totally edible, even the young ones. So the young ones are edible raw, and the bigger leaves, once the plant has gone to flower, has made this flower stem, you would probably want to cook. So it's actually a pretty popular Polish recipe to use curled dock leaves, and they basically make a soup with it. It tends to be a little involved, but a basic way you could make it is by dicing up the young dock leaves, about a half cup of them, toss it in a can of cream of mushroom soup, and then for extra pizzazz, you could add some crumbled bacon and diced potatoes, and you'd have a really yummy and healthy soup. So the leaves are edible raw, just to refresh. If they're young, they're edible raw. If they're more mature and it's already put out a flower stalk, and again, this is what the flower stalk would look like, then you would probably want to cook the leaves just to take out some of the bitterness. Now, the seeds are also edible, but you would have to roast them first. So this would also take a little bit of work because again, I'm gonna try to zoom in, each seed has a little sheath around it. You would want to remove the seeds from the sheath. Now the sheaths are edible, but I'm trying to say this as politely as possible. If you were to eat very much of the seed sheaths, you would have very strong digestive problems. Let's just say it would be very much like taking X-Lax. So you probably do not want to consume very much of the seed sheaths. So one way that you can more easily remove them is a process called winnowing. And the way you would do that is to remove the seeds, all the seeds and sheaths from the stalk, just rub them off until you get a good quantity. Roast them until they're dry and brittle. And then you would go outside with them and have two bowls, put them in one bowl and you would rub them in your hands, kind of like trying to grind them a little bit, but just rub them between your hands. That would loosen up the sheaths from the seeds. At this point, they would be easier to do because they're more brittle. And then put them in a bowl and gently dump them from one bowl to another and let the wind or breeze kind of blow away the sheaths. At this point, they would kind of blow away. And again, that's a process called winnowing. You could probably look it up online to get more details about how to do it. It's a simple process. I'm not sure if I explained it properly, but there you go. So let's talk about the nutritional values of it. Also, back to the seeds, once they're roasted, they can be eaten as a snack. Just eat them like they are. You can grind them into flour, boil them and make them into a porridge, add them into any bread recipes, etc. Basically, you can do just about anything you would do with any other seed. They add a nutty kind of quinoa flavor to soups and stews when you do that. Now you can also use the root. Try to show you the root again. I've heard that or read that mashed up fresh root has been used for any type of like minor skin issues like rashes or scrapes. If you were to use the fresh root like that. If you want to use the root for medicinal properties, you would need to dry it first. And that would be a process that would need to take place over a long period of time. So you'd need to put them in a cool, dark place and dry them anywhere from 8 months to a year for the medicinal properties to be able to be extracted from the roots. Now the roots have a laxative property to it. They're also an appetite stimulant. They have antibiotic and antifungal properties and also anti-diabetic for type 2 diabetes. That way you would use that is after drying the root, you could make a poultice with it, a tisane, which is just basically a tea, and then a tincture also. Now the leaves again are edible and they are high in vitamins A and C. They have trace minerals in them and protein. So that's a very good healthy property that you would like to have. So just really quick recap, leaves are edible. The young leaves are the ones you'd want to eat if you're going to eat them raw. This being young, I mean by they'd be smaller and it hasn't produced a plant stalk yet like this plant. Once a flower stalk, I'm sorry. Once the plant has produced a flower stalk like this, the leaves are still edible, but you would want to cook them. And then the seeds are also edible. And again, you would need to roast them first. So hopefully this has been helpful to you guys and useful. Yellow dock or curl dock is something that is very common to find in our area. It grows just about anywhere. So go out and pick some. Try the younger leaves, maybe make a salad with them mixed with other greens that you have, and let me know what you think. If you have any questions, let me know as well. I'm going to post some pictures of this plant in the comments, and I'll also post a kind of recap of the nutritional and medicinal values. So thanks for watching.